Pixar began its foray into wholesome animated films with the first Toy Story film in 1995. Most of us grew up watching and loving Pixar films, but only the keen-eyed viewers know that the animation company has always been sneaky about the Easter eggs it scatters across all its films. Each and every Pixar film has a canvas of Easter eggs that often references its other films, and the callbacks have grown so vast in the past 31 years that you could almost assume they all exist in one shared universe. In fact, a few of them have even teased the upcoming films, like the time a toy Nemo showed up in Boo's room before Monsters, Inc., 2 years before Finding Nemo was actually released. Not just that, the OG Toy Story film also had many cool references to some very famous Disney films, while also including some homages to some amazing classic movies that influenced animation. Now, almost 3 decades later, Toy Story has become one of the most loved movie franchises at Pixar, and with a 5th film taking over the theaters, they certainly haven't held back from giving us a chock full of Easter eggs. So without wasting another moment, let's discuss all the cool references that I could spot in Toy Story 5. The Pizza Planet truck returns. I doubt a Toy Story movie would feel remotely complete without a nod to Pizza Planet. So inevitably, Toy Story 5 proudly continues that tradition. So the iconic 1978 Gyoza Mark 7 light hauler delivery truck first appeared in the original 1995 film, when Woody and Buzz hitched a ride to the space-themed Pizza Planet arcade. Since then, it has become one of Pixar's most famous recurring Easter eggs that pops up very often at almost every one of the studio's films. In fact, over the years, the Pizza Planet truck has shown up in some pretty unexpected places, or in completely different time periods, like the wooden carving in Brave, or being hidden among asteroids in The Good Dinosaur. I guess the only Pixar feature that is traditionally known for not including the truck is The Incredibles. Having said that, of course, Toy Story 5 could not leave it out, as we see the famous truck makes another appearance during the action-packed chase where Jessie, Woody, Buzz, and a squad of 50 high-tech Buzz Lightyear toys were riding Blaze's horse toys while chasing the truck carrying Lilyad. The truck speeds away after Jessie, Buzz, and Woody notice it headed towards their direction, and alert the entire cavalcade of Buzz Lightyears with them to freeze and drop. Of course, it makes sense for the Pizza Planet truck to be going this fast, but it is good to know that it is still in business in this ever-evolving world of technology. However, you should know that this Pizza Planet truck has not shown up in over a decade before this in a Toy Story movie. I mean, yes, we did see a reference of it in 2019's Toy Story 4, but it was just a tattoo on a carnival worker's leg instead of the proper truck. Lastly, one of the movie's deeper Easter eggs of the same is introduced as a new character, and yes, I am talking about the rubber pepperoni pizza toy with sunglasses who was left outside alongside the rest of Blaze's forgotten toys. Although Bad Bunny only voices the character in a very brief scene, it is actually another clever nod to an early concept for the original Toy Story. So back then, Pizza Planet was called Pizza Putt, and was imagined as a restaurant with a mini golf course instead of an arcade. In fact, one piece of concept art featured a slice of pizza wearing sunglasses, but the idea was eventually dropped and replaced by the now iconic three-eyed alien. Now, decades later, that forgotten design has finally made its way onto the big screen. How cool is that? Combat Carl now has a new voice actor. So, Combat Carl is yet another recurring toy from the OG 1995 film, who was pretty much introduced to be a throwaway character with a resemblance to a G.I. Joe type action toy. He got blown up by Sid as the other toys watched in absolute horror, but over the years his role has expanded in a very dynamic manner, as Pixar gave him a bigger personality in Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story 4. Until the 4th installment, Combat Carl was voiced by Carl Weathers, who passed away in 2024, and so in the latest film, Ernie Hudson took up the responsibility to fill those giant shoes by making a short cameo as Combat Carl. But he was not the only character to be voiced by a new actor, because after the death of Don Rickles, Jeff Bergman took over as Mr. Potato Head. Anna Vocino is also voicing Mrs. Potato Head after taking over for the late Estelle Harris. And lastly, Bonnie Anderson is also voiced by a new actor named Scarlett Spears. Interestingly, Bonnie has had a different voice actress in each of her feature film appearances, thus making this latest recast part of an ongoing tradition for the character as she grows up. Many recurring Toy Story brand names pop up in a blink and miss moment. So we see a few brands making a return to Toy Story 5. You probably caught them in various drifting moments across the previous films, but I guess one of the most prominent ones we see in the latest film is Ship It, the delivery service that delivers the Lilyad tablet to Bonnie's house. In case you forgot, Ship It was previously seen in both Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story 4. Apart from that, another major brand that shows up again in the 5th installment is Eggman, who is actually very important to the story this time. As it turns out, the Eggman brand is revealed to be the same manufacturer, not only for the Lilyad tablet, but also for the electronic potty training toy we know as Smarty Pants. So Eggman first showed up as a brand in the original Toy Story as Eggman Movers, which was the company hired by Andy's family for the big move. We saw the truck again appear in Toy Story 2, and while it is not at all related to Sonic the Hedgehog, Eggman's name is inspired from the late Ralph Eggleston, who passed away in 2022 after serving as an art director for the first 2 Toy Story movies. Lilypad's screen is a treasure trove of Easter eggs. So the introduction of the Lilyad tablet in the latest Toy Story film not only gave us a refreshingly new villain, but also allowed Pixar to use her screen as an avenue for countless Easter eggs and references. In fact, some of them go by so fast that you don't even notice them on the first watch. But among the plethora of references that show up on Lilypad's screen, we see a photo of the ocean from Finding Nemo while she is browsing on a forum. There is also another one of a snowy summit that looks like the abominable snowman's home in Monsters, Inc. But that's not all. When Lilyad messaging the girls in Bonnie's dance class to set the main story in motion, we see that as the messages keep popping up, the avatars of 3 girls are briefly shown on her screen. Even if they are only glimpsed past our eye for a moment, true Pixar fans might recognize how Chelsea's avatar closely resembles the beavers from Pixar's 2026 film Hoppers, while Kara's avatar looks strangely similar to the oversized bird we see in Pixar's beloved short film For the Birds. Sammy could be a callback to a canceled Pixar film. So this next Easter egg might be a bit of a reach, and I don't know if any of you remember, but many years ago, Pixar announced a film called Newt, which was supposed to follow the last surviving male and female blue-footed newts on Earth, as they were forced to save their species, despite the fact that they could not stand each other. Sadly, that project was eventually canceled before it ever made it to theaters. Now, Newt had originally been slated for a 2011 release, right after Toy Story 3, and according to Pixar's tradition, Toy Story 3 of course included a small tease from the upcoming film, where we see a Newt crossing sign hanging in Andy's room. That makes a small detail in Toy Story 5 especially interesting, as Bonnie has a pet named Sammy, who is specifically called Sammy 2, since the first one sadly passed away. While Sammy is a tiger salamander rather than a newt, I sort of believe the character could be a subtle nod to Pixar's long-lost Newt project. It is impossible to say that for sure, but it certainly feels like one of those deep-cut references Pixar loves to slip into its films. There are too many nostalgic callbacks to the original Toy Story. So Toy Story 5 really commercializes on the whole nostalgia element by sharing a lot of similarities with the 1995 movie. While we do notice the structure of the story having the similar beat of an old toy becoming suspicious of the newest one, there is also a roster of other details that pays a direct homage to the first film of the franchise. Now, in the scene where Woody enters Bonnie's room to reunite with all the toys, we start seeing all the references from the OG film come alive. Firstly, we see a chalkboard behind Woody that has clouds drawn on it, just like the fluffy white ones that adorned Andy's old bedroom wall. In case you forgot, Toy Story 3 ended with an emotional closing shot that pans up to a sky filled with clouds to mirror Andy's room. So I truly teared up seeing Buzz and Woody hug with a cloud drawn in the background. We also witnessed Woody tricking Buzz to force him to turn and look in another direction, which mimics their exact movements from the "Buzz, look, an alien" joke in the original Toy Story film. Then, in the latest release, we see Buzz and Woody chase after a car, which obviously is a direct reference to the time they chased after a moving truck in the first film. Finally, during Toy Story 5's big climax, we find out that all these upgraded Buzz Lightyear toys now have inbuilt drones within them that allows them to fly. Well, one of the most iconic moments in the first film, and literally just throughout the entire franchise, is the moment when we see Buzz and Woody soaring in the air. Buzz calls it falling with style instead of flying, which is a direct callback to earlier in the film when Buzz and the other toys believed he flew across Andy's rooms, where Woody called it falling with style. Now, almost 30 years later, Toy Story 5 finally gives Buzz Lightyear the chance to fly after Lilyad unlocks the new Buzz Lightyear special flying features by scanning a QR code and activating their wings, which reveal them to be drones that help them become a flying toy. As we see them take off, Woody and Buzz comment how they were flying with style, which feels heartwarmingly nostalgic. Woody's new look is a direct homage to one of cinema's most famous cowboys. So Woody picked up a new look for his outfit during his time away from Bonnie and the other toys. He basically adds a red bandana to his cowboy outfit and makes it a poncho, which is clearly a direct nod to Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name from Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy of movies. This is literally one of cinema's other most famous cowboys, but that was not the only reference to another iconic Western performer that Woody has had with him. In fact, Woody's name has a few interesting inspirations behind it, as the character was named after actor Woody Strode, who appeared in numerous classic films throughout his career, including Sergeant Rutledge, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Once Upon a Time in the West, and The Professionals. Pixar also expanded Woody's backstory in Toy Story 2 by revealing that he was originally the star of a fictional TV show called Woody's Roundup. That series is a loving parody of the classic children's puppet program Howdy Doody, thus tying Woody's roots to one of the most iconic cowboy-themed shows in television history. There are too many Disney references. Well, Toy Story has never been completely shy about referencing Disney or other Disney properties. In case you forgot, the original film famously included a nod to The Lion King and its iconic song about friendship, but Toy Story 5 arguably takes those references further up a notch, and the biggest example comes when Snappy, the digital camera at Blaze's house, shows us a series of family photos to the other toys, which includes a photo from a family trip to Disneyland. It's surely a fun gag, but it also raises a certain hilariously confusing question. If Disneyland exists in the Toy Story universe, do Pixar movies exist there too? After all, the real Disneyland actually has attractions like the Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters ride and Jesse's Critter Carousel at Disney California Adventure. I guess it is one of those Easter eggs that you probably should not overthink about, unless you want a serious headache. Having said that, there is yet another clever Disney nod that we see later in the film, and this time it is through the soundtrack. So as the group of Buzz Lightyear toys wanders through the woods and encounters a deer and other wildlife, the musical score briefly plays Love Is a Song from Bambi. Then, when humans suddenly appear, the music shifts to the tense theme that is associated with Man from the same film. I truly loved this particular subtle callback, which I am sure many of you noticed as well. The Buzz Lightyear lore drop. So the grandest subplot in Toy Story 5 is about the group of brand new high-tech Buzz Lightyear toys that accidentally fall out of a shipping container and end up stranded on a remote island somewhere in the ocean. Given that they are all fresh out of the box, they behave exactly like the way you would expect a brand new Buzz Lightyear to act. Yes, they genuinely believe themselves to be real space rangers on an important mission. So the Buzzes march in perfect formation while keeping their hands on their wrists, as if they are ready to activate their laser beams at any moment. Not just that, as the story unfolds, they spot a bright star in the sky that pretty much triggers the memories of their Space Ranger program. And before you know it, they are all chanting Star Command in unison, building a makeshift boat, and setting off across the water in search of civilization. Of course, the Buzz Lightyear lore goes deeper when the main Buzz from Bonnie's toys meets up with all the other Buzzes. It all comes up on Buzz to do the difficult task of explaining to them that they are not real Space Rangers, but toys whose true purpose is not to report to Star Command, but to make a child happy. Later, he also drops another truth bomb that was revealed in Toy Story 2. He tells all the other Buzz toys that Emperor Zurg is actually their father, which leads the entire group to immediately react with a dramatic synchronized "No!", thus recreating one of the funniest moments from the second film, when Al's toy barn Buzz discovered Zurg was his father. I think you could also call this a reference inside a reference, since the bit in Toy Story 2 was a spoof of the infamous "I am your father" scene from The Empire Strikes Back. Given that Pixar Animation got its name from the Pixar image computer developed by George Lucas, it is fitting that, after all these years, Toy Story still includes Star Wars references. But that joke gets an even better payoff during the post-credits scene, after the Buzz Lightyear toys arrive at a playground and happily pair themselves with different children. But just as everything seems perfect, one of the kids pulls a Zurg action figure out of their backpack, leaving the Buzzes face to face with their greatest nemesis once again. Transformers might have joined the Toy Story franchise unofficially. All Toy Story movies have always loved to mix up real-life toy brands like Barbie and Mr. Potato Head, along with fictional ones like Combat Carl, who represents G.I. Joe. Naturally, Toy Story 5 continues that tradition by introducing a robot that looks and transforms very much like a Transformer, but sadly the film never makes it clear whether it is an officially licensed toy or simply Pixar's own version of one. As we see, the Transformers robot is among the many toys that have been abandoned outside by the kids who are now more interested in tablets and other technology. During its brief appearance, we see it converting into a fighter jet, which is surely a clear nod to the many jet-forming Transformers, including fan favorites like Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. However, this reference may also be a playful wink to Toy Story 4's director, Josh Cooley, who directed Transformers 1. Toy Story 5 took the Chinese Zodiac in consideration. So 2026 is the year of the horse in the Chinese Zodiac, and ironically, Toy Story 5 is also filled with horses. I'm not just talking about Bullseye, who actually gets to speak for the first time in one of the play sequences. The new human kid in the film, Blaze, has a real horse on her farm, and that probably explains why she actually has a whole variety of horse toys, which later ends up playing a very important role in the movie's climax. Of course, this could be a crazy coincidence, but it could also have been a marketing gimmick by the Walt Disney Company. I say it with such sincerity because Zootopia 2 was released in the Year of the Rabbit, and we all know how the film would later go on to gross $651.45 million in China alone, thus making it the highest grossing for any American film in the country. So maybe Toy Story 5 used the horse motif to narrow down on a similar box office bump for the film. Jessie and Lilypad's dynamic are not very different than what we saw with Buzz and Woody in the first film. Toy Story 5 is very much pitched to us as Jessie's story, and in many ways she really steps into a similar role that Woody played in the original 1995 film. That basically makes Lilypad this movie's version of Buzz Lightyear, because it is a brand new, technologically advanced toy that instantly captures Bonnie's attention after she gets it as a gift. The parallels to the first Toy Story are too hard to miss here because Jessie and Lilypad's first confrontation takes place on Bonnie's bed, which echoes the iconic moment when Woody and Buzz first met in Andy's room. Throughout most of the film, the two are initially at odds with one another and see each other as a threat, but just like Woody and Buzz before them, they gradually find a way to understand each other's perspective. That is why, at the end of the film, their rivalry evolves into mutual respect and friendship, thus bringing it to a full circle for a new generation. Toy Story 5 refers to a forgotten Cars sequel. I think one of the film's more surprising callbacks may be hiding in Blaze's imaginative play session. As she plays with Jessie, Bullseye, and the rest of the AA gang, including Mr. Smartypants, Snappy, and Atlas, Blaze turns them into the stars of a full-blown spy adventure. As Jessie takes on the role of Agent Clydesdale, the story features a shocking twist film, and the climax revolves around defusing a bomb strapped to one of the main characters. Well, it is hard not to see the similarities to Cars 2, the Pixar sequel that took the Cars series in a completely different direction by turning it into an international spy thriller. That film also focused on a surprise villain and a bomb that had to be defused before it was too late. While Cars 2 remains one of Pixar's most divisive movies yet, Toy Story 5 still seems to play homage to it in a fun way, which suggests that the studio still has a soft spot for Spy Story, even if it is just through the imagination of a child at play. We get a nod to Sully from Monsters, Inc. When Bonnie puts on an imaginary wedding for her toys at the beginning of the film, we see that Rex is shown to be the poisoned maid of honor, who ends up turning blue with purple spots, which is the same color scheme or pattern as Sully's fur from Monsters, Inc. Cool, right? Jessie's backstory about her time with Emily has endless Easter eggs. I think the Easter eggs for Jessie start dropping when she first thinks back about her time with Emily, her original owner, and the heartbreaking song When She Loved Me, sung by Sarah McLachlan, plays in the background as a recurring motif. Composed by Randy Newman, the song was pretty much the emotional linchpin for Toy Story 2, as it truly expressed the deep-seated trauma Jessie felt from being abandoned by her first owner. But Toy Story 5 is Jessie's rodeo, so it places the healing of that trauma front and center of the film. After Bonnie abandons them, we see how Jessie and Bullseye are mistakenly returned to Emily's house by an elderly couple who found them outside the house where Bonnie had her sleepover party. Even though the house now has new owners, Jessie immediately recognized the home where she first lived, including the hill and tire swing we had first seen in Toy Story 2. But what truly forces Jessie to confront her trauma is when Smarty Pants begs her to help him recharge his friends with new batteries, after asking her if she actually knew what it was like to be shoved back in the dark forever. This particularly connects to the major fear that Jessie has with boxes and the dark. As you know, Jessie was put in storage for years when Emily, her first ever owner, donated her to charity after she grew up. This is where all her trauma comes from, but the fact that Emily named her daughter after Jessie really helped her get over it, because now she finally understood that even if time goes on and the kids grow up to leave their toys behind, the memories they shared together all their childhood would always stay with both of them. That is why during the final chase scene we see Jessie wearing the beads in her hair, which basically symbolizes that our girl is now in her healing era. Woody's bald spot is a rather funny callback. So there is a clever joke about Woody's age near the beginning of the film. As Woody is growing old, we see a spot on the back of his head where the paint has faded, which makes it seem as though he has a bald spot. Now, this is actually the same spot that the toy repairman from Toy Story 2 repainted when he restored Woody. So I guess another visit is in order? Well, in the credits, Bo Peep uses a brown marker to cover up Woody's bald spot, which not only pays off Tribe's joke from the beginning of the movie, but also saves him a trip to a repairman. Well, that brings us to the very end of this video. Are there any other vital Easter eggs that I might have missed? Let us know about your thoughts and opinions in the comment box below.